Today is Saturday, May 31st, 2025. I'm about to get on an Amtrak train, which, by the time you're watching this, may not exist. Spoiler alert, it's still around, but it might not be for long. This is the Heartland Flyer, a state-sponsored Amtrak service from Fort Worth, Texas to Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. I'm getting on at Purcell, a small town of 6,800 people, and home to the least used Amtrak station in Oklahoma, where I'm catching a ride south to Texas. Why was I in Purcell of all places? Long story for someone else's video. But as of right now, the Amtrak Heartland Flyer is the only regular transit serving the town. Why is it going away? The only way to find out is to go for a ride. The Heartland Flyer only runs once a day in each direction, with a northbound train in the evening and a southbound service the next morning. The consist is also pretty small, with two P-42 locomotives sandwiching 3 Superliner cars. Since this is a short train, and I'm boarding 2 stops down the line from OKC, my seating options are limited. So 2 stops down from Oklahoma City, every single window seat was taken. I ended up in an aisle seat facing backwards with no tray table. Behold, I love Amtrak, but they would really do well to implement reserved seating. Since we're going through a Wi-Fi dead spot, I figured this would be a good time to do a train tour. As you can see, this is a typical Superliner. The only major difference between it and normal Superliners being that half the seats are reversed and half of them face forward. Downstairs in the center car we find the train's cafe, complete with unique decorations and friendly staff. It's also got a few menu items that are unique to this service. Just from walking around the train, we can see that it's pretty full, at least today, a Saturday morning. So why is it going to die? Well, to understand that, we first need to understand how it was born. We pass through flat farmlands and the occasional small town, on tracks that were originally laid by the Santa Fe Railroad. The line used to run all the way from Fort Worth to Kansas, linking 2 other Santa Fe lines and bringing lots of new settlers to Oklahoma. At its peak, the line hosted the streamlined Texas Chief, which ran all the way from Chicago to Galveston. The line also moved a lot of cows. Get it? Moved? Never mind. Of course, you probably know what happened next. More Texans and Oklahomans started driving and flying, and trains were used less and less. Finally, Amtrak took over the Texas Chief, before discontinuing it in 1979 due to budget cuts. With that, Oklahoma lost all passenger rail service. That is, until the Heartland Flyer came along in 1999. Although the hoped-for route connecting Fort Worth all the way to Kansas City never quite materialized, instead leaving the northern terminus at Oklahoma City. The train was named by 11-year-old Katie Moore through a statewide contest for school children.
I was 11 years old, and basically I knew trains had been called flyers a lot in the past, and we're the Heartland. It just seemed like an obvious choice, so that's what I went with.
The pleasant farmland scenery is broken up when our tracks snake along the Washita River, whose orange-brown color comes from its banks of erosive red earth, as well as an unstable bed of sand and silt. This river flows a full 295 miles from the Texas Panhandle to the southern Oklahoma border. It's also worth noting that most of today's journey is across the Chickasaw Nation, a territory larger than Connecticut and home to many of the nation's 80,000 people. As we approach the Texas border, we have a fresh air stop. This is the one and only fresh air stop on the Heartland Flyer, Ardmore, Oklahoma. And if you think that name sounds familiar, like a town on the Philadelphia Main Line, you would be correct. It was named by a Santa Fe foreman who had previously worked for the Pennsylvania Railroad. Huh, what's next? Paoli, Oklahoma? Huh. Wayne, Oklahoma? Oh wow. Kenwood, Oklahoma? Worth a shot. If you're enjoying this video, be sure to subscribe, and if you've been around for a bit, do consider checking out my Patreon. Your donations help keep the channel running, and if you join, you now get 3 perks. You can watch Classy Whale videos up to 1 week early. You can join the new Patreon Discord, where I mentor my viewers who make their own train or transit videos. And you can tune in to Extra Whale, the lower-key after show that accompanies each video. This week, I'll be ranking all the state-sponsored Amtrak trains I've ridden. Number 1 will not surprise you. Ardmore is the last stop in Oklahoma. Then we cross the Red River on a bridge and find ourselves in the gargantuan state of Texas. And I feel like this is a good place to talk about how Amtrak is funded, or in the case of the Heartland Flyer, not funded. You see, Even though it uses the same equipment as a long-distance train like the California Zephyr, the Heartland Flyer is one of Amtrak's state-sponsored routes, where much of its operating budget comes from the states it serves, Oklahoma and Texas. Per Railway Age, the cost of running the Flyer has gone up over the last decade, like the cost of most things. Texas hasn't increased its funding to compensate. Up until this year, they've paid about $2.5 million per year, with the state of Oklahoma and ticket sales carrying much of the rest of the balance. But this year, despite pleas from the Texas Department of Transportation for more funds, the Texas legislature in Austin has removed the Heartland Flyer's funding from the state budget entirely. Amtrak has warned that if a source of cash doesn't materialize soon, the Heartland Flyer will stop running by October 1st of this year. Per TexasRailAdvocates.com, other funding sources are being looked at on the local, state, and regional level, so time will tell if I need to retitle this video. But if nothing materializes, we may be about to witness the first Amtrak route to be cut in the second Trump era. This is the part of the video where normally I would jump right to talking about why this was a bad decision, and what Oklahoma and Texas will lose if they cancel the Heartland Flyer, and I'm still gonna do that in a moment. But my trip to Purcell left me with an uncomfortable feeling, and I want to unpack it for a moment. I feel like transit advocacy in the United States can be very hard. In the case of the Heartland Flyer, it's not as good a train as it could be. If it ran more often, or was late less often, or had a higher top speed, or had greater priority over freight, or ran to Kansas like it was originally supposed to, it would be a better, more impressive service, whose continued existence would be easier to justify to skeptics. We should absolutely push for it to become that. But the initial act of getting all that funded would be challenging. Service expansion has been seriously talked about and advocated for of late, and the Texas legislature still went ahead with the cuts. At the same time, the current iteration of the Heartland Flyer is hard to sell to skeptics. It only runs once a day, and probably doesn't carry close to the number of people who drive along its route. I couldn't find exact numbers. Amtrak claims 80,000 people rode the Flyer in 2024, equating to approximately 50,000 cars not on the highway, which sounds like a lot until you realize that's just about 137 cars per day, barely a dent. So in short, it's both difficult to pitch expansion, which skeptics would have to sign on to and pay for, and difficult to pitch just keeping the dang thing funded, which skeptics would also have to support. There's a lot of antagonism towards funding mass transit in the United States. I mean, look at what's going on in my home state right now. This is not a call to throw up our hands and plan Amtrak's funeral, far from it. But getting things done in this field is difficult, and in light of an imminent train cancellation, I think it's okay to sit with that. Of course, most of you already know why I'm still going to champion intercity rail. It promotes economic growth, tourism, and higher property values near stations. Intercity rail is a lifeline to towns like Purcell that otherwise have no public transportation. It's good for the climate, and good for our urban environments in that there's less cars driving around or parked in places. It's an equitable option for people with disabilities and people with lower income. It's also a heck of a lot safer than driving, and you don't have to vigilantly operate a high-speed metal box for hours on end to get to your destination. Even if a train like the Heartland Flyer loses money, subsidizing it is a public good with all kinds of benefits to its riders. And when I said earlier that expanding state Amtrak services was hard, I didn't mean it was impossible, or that it hadn't been done. Do you think that Pennsylvania regrets rebuilding the Keystone as an electrified service? Or that California regrets implementing all-day local and express service on the Surfliner corridor? I really don't think so. But do you think that Texas will regret not investing in better passenger rail in the years to come as more and more people move to the region? I think that's a bit more likely. Support for passenger rail can come from all sorts of places. Oklahoma is a very conservative state, and it's still ready and willing to keep funding the Flyer. Fort Worth's Republican mayor wants to continue too, and that's why we need to keep championing trains like the Heartland Flyer, no matter what we're up against. If you're in Texas, reach out to your legislators and make your case for keeping the trains running. I just think we need to advocate with our eyes open, knowing that it's not always going to be easy, and that sometimes people in power will not give us what we want. That doesn't mean we should stop trying, even after they say no. Perhaps once the last Heartland Flyer has rolled through Purcell, its absence will turn enough heads to make people question why it went away in the first place. Perhaps the powers that be will shrug and ride off in their Ubers. Or perhaps the inevitable comments that I'm going to get will come true, and Brightline will come in, run 12 privatized passenger trains a day, and turn Purcell into a maze of office towers and apartment complexes. Who knows? In any case, we're pulling into Fort Worth, getting off at the city's central station, full of memories, lots of apprehension, and maybe, just maybe, a little bit of hope. Long live the Heartland Flyer.